What's up, y'all? My name is T. Shaw, and this is Brewin Black Podcast, where the contents we serve you is authentic, vulnerable, and relatable. That means we serve you with no cream and no sugar.
I guess I like my coffee black.
Yo, 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 how y'all feeling? This is Scholar P, pronoun he, him, his.
And it's T. Shaw, pronouns he, him, his.
And this is Brewin Black, giving you all the latest in Black news and entertainment for our intellectuals, our millennials, and those who like their information like we like our news. Black. T, how you feeling, man? We back on camera.
I know, bro. It's nice to be back. I get to see your face and whatnot. Like, but bro, I'm feeling good. It's a good week. I just have no complaints. My dog knows some tricks. My boy is 3 months. He knows sit, he knows lay down, he knows high five, like shake, man. And he knows stay. So I'm like, I feel like the puppy whisperer, but I also feel like he's a prodigy. So if y'all see us on one of them dog shows in the little puppy X games and he dipping and dodging through the little post, just know you heard it here first.
That's it. And what we want y'all to do, we want y'all to hit us up and let us know what are the next moves that T's dog Deuce, shout out Deuce. What are the next moves that Deuce should learn? That's because T is an ambitious person. He gonna want Deuce to know all the moves. He gonna want to show out.
Absolutely. I'm running out of moves. But how your week been, bro?
Man, what a question.
It's loaded.
It's loaded. I think that this week is about being an adult, making adult decisions. And what I've learned about this week too is that, even when you are faced with, emotional distress, I've learned how to, compartmentalize things and keep pushing, because sometimes in life, what we know is that, some things and some decisions that you have to make are big, and they're not going to be solved or figured out within the first 2 minutes of you hearing about them, or the first hour, or even the first day. Sometimes you have to learn how to, compartmentalize and focus on the other things that you need to do and the other people who are dependent on you, and knowing that God, the universe, or whatever you believe in will guide your energy to the right decision. And so I have learned that over the past couple of days, and so I'm eternally grateful.
Okay, I love that too. And it's healthy compartmentalizing, because I know some people can compartmentalize and never check back in with that section of their life until it like festers and takes them over. But I think what you're saying is just like allowing yourself time to process emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and while you're still productive in these areas of life, you're still processing that stuff, and then you come back to it in a healthy way, able to really like make a solid decision for yourself. And I think that that's like something that everybody can learn. It's not being super quick to pull the trigger and make a quick decision. Is allowing you to like kind of process all the information that you have and like make the best decision that you can make in that moment.
Right. Absolutely. And the reward is I'm going to be able to get away from everything from the city of angels for a little bit. I'm going to Costa Rica. Shout out to the crew. So that's going to be really, really exciting. And I'm excited. We outside. It's summertime, and I'm feeling good. This is actually our last week of official classes. It's finals week for folks here at UCLA. So very, very grateful, man. But speaking of which, tell them where we are, because it's not just UCLA, it's not just LA. T, where are we really at?
Yes, like we like to do, we have to give our land acknowledgments. So this is the land of the Gabrielino and the Tongva. This is stolen land. This is colonized land. And we will always pay those respects.
Absolutely. So we want to get into some of our quick news updates. So, we just experienced that Floyd Mayweather versus, was it was Jake? It was Jake Paul. Yes.
I think it was Logan.
Oh man. Okay.
Jake was the one that knocked out Nate.
Oh God. I don't even want to think about it. How'd you feel about the fight, man?
I feel like balance has been restored
Okay.
when it comes to the Paul brothers versus the Black community.
I see it.
But I think it's funny because I think it was just a hustle. More than anything, it was a hustle. Like to think that someone with an 0-1 record and millions of YouTube subscribers and some fans and all of that views that qualified him to fight arguably the greatest boxer of our generation, right?
Right.
So I think that was wild, but I think that it was a money ploy. Like I think about like how Usher played us, right? And that was just like a thing to get us going and get us interested and get our eyes looking one specific way. I feel like that was the same thing. And I thought it was wild that people was like, "Oh, Logan Paul is so much bigger. He really might knock him out." But it's like I grew up watching Floyd Mayweather fights, and I can't even recall a time that he's been hit. Like, to be so real, he doesn't really get hit like that. Like most of his fights are very defensive. He's ducking and dodging. He's hitting, yeah, he hitting the lead dance. So it's like I knew that this would have been the outcome of it, but it's like bro got his money up. I guess his name is Floyd Money Mayweather. I wonder why he would take the fight, but it's like he'd do anything for the money bag.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that was my only thing. Like, first of all, shout out to Floyd, get your money. I think he said he is the master of legalized bank robbery. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So he's gonna get his money. It's easy for him, like you said. He probably wasn't really even worried about getting hit or hurt for real. I think that in terms of his legacy, I think that I feel like Logan had to should have really been able to earn that spot. And to be honest, he can never. Floyd's retired, and he shouldn't even really get a chance to fight Floyd. But I'm not going to be mad at Floyd getting his money. If I was Floyd, I'd be like, I'm not even gonna. You got to. There are levels to this. There are levels to this. And so that's the only thing I don't really like about it, because I feel like his legacy is just too great to even entertain these types of fights. But for the sport of boxing and bringing in different eyes and people, like, it could be a good thing. So shout out to both of them, I guess.
Absolutely. And what he did, he said something like, my family can't eat off legacy. So I was like, I mean, I guess like get it how you live it. But I do agree with you as well that like it is good for the sport of boxing itself. It's bringing more eyes to it. Shout out to Chad Johnson, my man Ocho Cinco got in the ring, and he didn't look nearly as bad as Nate Robinson. So I think that was nice to see too.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So shout out to all the fighters this past weekend. Much love. But sometimes people choose the wrong moves in a fight, and and I know we talk about this issue a lot, but as it relates to sexual violence and assault, we know that T.I. and Tiny have they've had rape allegation claims made against them. One of the main people being one Sabrina Peterson, and T.I. recently made a music video called What It's Come To, where he basically makes the claim that a bunch of in the video, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's about a lot of women scheming and saying, hey, do you want to get a bag real quick? And they get a representative to speak for them, and it's like a bunch of different like randos who are looking to sort of make a quick buck. And my only issue with it is that, of course, I wasn't there. I don't know whether T.I. did this, and T.I. and Tiny did this or didn't do this. And of course, people have the right to defend themselves. But for me, it's like when you are T.I. and you have this type of platform and you create a video where you have a bunch of women of color, and in particular Black women, sort of positioned as scammers trying to make a quick buck and using rape allegations to do so. The danger in that is that the average person, the average Joe, might look at a woman, any Black woman making a rape allegation, and say, oh, you're just like that woman from T.I.'s video. So I think that we got to be careful. It's sort of like when Chris Brown made a t-shirt saying that the bitch is lying. I understand if you're trying to defend yourself, but if you are innocent, then trust your legal team. I'd actually probably be more inclined to stay more silent about it, or even if you're going to say something like, hey, like, Black women do suffer. Black women are not believed. And it's unfortunate that this person would trivialize Black women's real pain in an attempt to hurt me or harm my legacy or get money. Like there are just different ways to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Right. So brothers, even if you do feel like, someone, or you yourself have been falsely accused of something, we can't ignore the fact that a lot of Black women are facing these things. They are facing these traumas, and they've been socialized to stay quiet, or they've been socialized to understand that a lot of people don't believe it when Black women disclose that they've been sexually assaulted. And so there got to be different ways for us to defend ourselves without attacking or putting in assumptions on a whole race of women. And so that's my only issue with it, T. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, bro. I mean, that was so well said. I don't even know how I could follow that up, because I think that you really do show in that, like, how it is like criminalizing in a way. It's really like stereotyping a whole group of women. Like, and I think that, yeah, just knowing that T.I. has about 19 allegations out, T.I. and Tiny got about 19 allegations out in multiple states, that I think that there has to be some type of validity to this argument. So to slander just so many, and because it's so general, maybe he is talking about one person and he used this one sound clip to almost demonize this one woman. I think that, yeah, just like you said, it has a ripple effect when people start to adopt this mentality and think that, like, that Black women in general like this, or that the Black women that do come out as accusers, that let them know that they're survivors of like sexual abuse and sexual assault, that they are just trying to get a quick bag and trying to scam. Because historically we know that there has been a problem, and that it has not been addressed, whether that be in a family or just like in college and different things like that. We all know someone that's been assaulted.
Right, absolutely. And this is not to say, look, fellas, I do research on this, right? Like, I can tell you about Black men being falsely accused for hours on end. So I definitely understand that piece. But there are ways to defend yourself without destroying a whole culture of Black women and putting this idea of liars on Black women. Because like in the video, he made it seem like it was a coup, that like you just got a bunch of Black women who want money, and they're not smart enough to think about something else outside of saying I was raped to get money. And so and it's so funny, because I love what you were saying about, all these allegations that he has against him, because even though he has all these allegations against him, he's still worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and he still holds all the power, even with all these accusations. So it's just like, we have to understand this dynamic, and we're not saying that he's guilty. We're not saying he's innocent. We're saying we don't know, but in the process of no matter what you think about his guilt or his innocence, there are ways to have these dialogues without destroying each other in the process. So yeah,
absolutely, man. Absolutely. And this is for my fellas, for my ladies, for my ladies, all people listening, right? Like, I think a way to avoid this is getting active in what is the word? It's enthusiastic consent. So we know what consent is, knowing when someone says no, that is it, right? But enthusiastic consent is understanding that no can come in so many different forms. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of uncomfortable. Yeah. If somebody is not excited to do something, then you shouldn't pursue that. And that's in anything, right? Like, if you like, oh, you trying to go to the store, or it's got P, you trying to go to the club, you like, man, I don't know, man. Like, and don't push, don't pry. Be like, all right, bro, just let me know if you want to, like,
right,
because I'm gonna go.
Right.
But yeah, so it's I just want to leave y'all with that, as enthusiastic consent. I think that that's a way that we can get past a lot of these situations and get past the gray areas, because there are a lot of gray areas. And I think that that's what makes these conversations extremely, extremely hard. But when you have that enthusiastic consent, it is very verbal. It is active communication. It is reading body language, and it is knowing. So yeah, stop trying to force people into doing things that they don't want to do. And that's peer pressure in all types of ways, right?
Absolutely, man. So yeah, Ti, T.I. Tiny, you know, whatever's coming to you, I hope it's what you deserve. I don't know what that really means, but you know, whatever's coming to you, I hope you get whatever you deserve, whether that be good or you know, justice or whatever that is. God bless you. God and God bless the women who have disclosed, who have reported, because we don't know the story. And so Brewin Black, we're not going to pretend that we do. But what we are saying is we're not about to make Black women look crazy. And like T said, this is very much of a gray area. But you know what's not a gray area, T? Can I be honest with you, brother?
Yeah, what's not, bro?
Black women have been excellent, and they've been excellent since 2000, since before 2000, so on and so forth. Yeah. And you know, I think that it's time that we discuss this, because unlike companies that have been around for a while and have made, you know, probably millions of dollars off the ways in which they project and produce and promote their people, we understand Black women's excellence hasn't just been in 2021. And so this segment, for those of you who might not know, is called our light roast. So for those of you who don't know, our light roast is when we critique someone or something in society that is, you know, quite frankly, sort of going off the deep end. And sometimes we try to give constructive criticism where we can. And T, you know, recently, you know, Maxim named a Black woman known as Teyana Taylor. We love our Teyana Taylor, right? As the sexiest woman alive. Which, yay, whatever.
Yeah, let me give her a round of applause.
Yay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Teyana.
Teyana is body goals, ambition goals, all sorts of goals. And we gotta say shout out to Teyana. She is every woman. She is dynamic. But we have an issue. T, tell the audience what our issue is.
All right, brewers. Y'all know I got a bone to pick. Teyana Taylor was the first Black woman named the sexiest woman alive in 2021. This list has been going on since 2000. So when I first heard about this, I was like, come on, Maxim, like, how long y'all been doing this? And I was like, maybe this is really from Jim Crow era, and they just haven't gotten with the program. And then I found out that they were only this list. I think they started in 1996 or 1998, but this list didn't come out until 2000. So I'm like, oh, come on now, like 2000. Like, can y'all? We all know a Black woman has dominated throughout the 2000s, and her name is Beyonce. So that was the first person.
Come on, man.
Hold on, Beyonce ain't won number one yet. And don't get me wrong, and this is especially because I think about, like, there are always people like, damn, y'all niggas ain't never happy with nothing. But I think we really have to think about it. Like, I agree with Jamil Hill when she says that this is an awful look for Maxim and that it's simply pathetic. And I think that once I had to do more research to really understand the root of this problem. And from my research, between 2000 and 2015, only Rihanna, Zoe Saldana, Beyonce, Halle Berry, and Christina Milian have been ranked at all in the top 10. So, I mean, there's a list of 100. So I'm sure there's been plenty of Black women throughout that time frame on the list. But in the top 10, there was only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Black women. But I think about, like, some of where they were ranked at. Rihanna, the highest she was ranked was 6. Beyonce did get number 2. Zoe Saldana did get number 3, but the highest Halle Berry was 7. The highest Christina Milian was 10. And then I looked at some of these other years. Ashley Tisdale ranked number 7 one year. She ranked number 8 one year. Taylor Swift won in 2015. And then there were multiple years where only white women were ranked in the top 10. So I also think about, like, some of our Latino women, Asian women. I didn't see any Asian represented women. So I think that we have to, like, really acknowledge that it is white supremacy. It is those European, like, those Eurocentric standards of beauty that we have hold so dear, to where we, in 2021, this is the first year where we can say, like, oh, we find a Black woman to be one of the most beautiful people in this world. And I think that that's crazy.
Absolutely. I think that Mark Lamont Hill sort of talked about this before, not the Maxim stuff, but when we talk about this list, what it makes me think about is this idea of like, can Black people be racist, right? And the reason why you're going to hear a lot of Black people say no is that racism is about structures and power. And so for me, I could have thought Beyonce was fine and Taylor Swift wasn't at all. And I could have a white colleague who says, hey, well, I don't think Beyonce is fine. I think Taylor Swift is gorgeous. But Maxim and the structures that be put Taylor Swift on top, right? And there are multiple years where there's not even a Black woman in sight. And so when we talk about racism, we think about it as a structural thing. Like, yes, I can have an opinion, but my opinion holds no power. Right. Maxim doesn't look at my opinion or the opinion of countless other Black people who would never put a Taylor Swift above a Beyonce on any year, much less 2015.
Don't get me wrong. She's Disney's darling, right?
Yeah. But it just goes to show that, racism has to do with power. So I can think Beyonce is more attractive than any white woman on the planet, but the powers that be, the structures that really illuminate folks and help boost your career, they don't see Beyonce in that light because of her Blackness. Because you're not going to tell me when she made Lemonade, that was the 2015 to 2016 or 2016 to 2017 year. She dominated that year. She changed the culture. That visual video, like she rocked our generation with that.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? And like that, like you can't tell me that she didn't deserve that spot. You know what I'm saying?
Or Dangerously in Love, Beyonce, when she first came out, and you telling me she's number 2? Like, come on, dog. Like, I think in going off of Scholar P's point, y'all, like, I think it's also thinking about like how these institutions influence us. We look at these lists, it's just like how we look at like the Academy Awards and different things like that. And they help shape our opinion for better or for worse about what were the best movies, what were the best, who were the most beautiful people in the world, right? So it's like if the institutions are constantly telling us like, this is how you should think, that is how we start to think. So we start to think about why some Black people might have some internalized racism and why some Black men don't find Black women attractive. This has a part to do with that. Like, it's the media. When we think about like Instagram and we think about the people that were often shown like in movies and different things like that, you never really see dark-skinned women. And people are continuing to bring this up. And I'm glad that this is much more of a topic because I didn't hear about this stuff when I was younger. Like, if I had to make a list when I was younger, like, I'm sure that there might have been maybe one dark-skinned woman, and that's like Gabrielle Union. But it's because like I just wasn't exposed. And I think because we're overly exposed to white women, it's easy to think like, oh yeah, Ashley Tisdale, she top tier, boy, she 10 out of 10. Like, but then you think about the other women around, but it's like we don't get that opportunity. And I even think about like the government. The government sets laws. It's like people are still homophobic, but I think that now we really celebrate pride. That couldn't have happened until the government got rid of sodomy laws and allowed gay people to get married. Without that, then people still find that illegal and then immoral. It's like these institutions set how we start to think about things. And again, it's for better or for worse. And sometimes we start to notice, and then we push these institutions to change. But in the same way, it's a feedback loop. They're changing us while we're changing them. And if there's no way to break that cycle, then we do have situations where we go 21 years without a Black woman being named the sexiest woman in the world. And I'm really excited for Teyana Taylor because she is representing for Black moms. She's representing for just Black women in general. But I think that it's so cool that she won as a mom. Like, I think that like, it lets you know that like, yeah, Black moms are sexy too, y'all. Like, I would drink her bath on it. Like, but yeah, I think it's just crazy, bro.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that. I love that point because I think that when you're talking about the governments and you're talking about these systems and it's not like these people are like, oh, like Black women are disenfranchised, LGBTQIA plus people are disenfranchised. Oops. It's like, no, it was very intentional.
Yeah.
And people are still big mad. I was reading something about some Iowa legislator still not wanting critical race theory to be in classes. Like all these things, to your point, are super intentional. And so Maxim knew. Oh, these years there's no black women in the top. They just weren't pretty enough. They just weren't successful enough that year. They'll have to try harder. It's all intentional. It's all intentional. Don't believe for one moment that it's not. And trust me, someone in Maxim is probably big mad at Teyana Taylor, especially because Teyana Taylor isn't light bright. And she's a mother.
Boy. She got body, she got lips. Like, that's a black woman.
And she's married to an NBA player.
Yeah. Shout out to Amon. Shout out to Jimmy.
God. Yeah. My God. So yeah, so like we've been saying, Teyana Taylor is more than deserving, but she should be able to look back on all these other black women who got number one and be like, I'm a part of something versus I'm the trailblazer for this.
I'm the first one. Yeah, no, there should be a starting five with like a sixth and a seventh man and the eighth man or something like that. Like there shouldn't be the only one. Yeah, bro, it's crazy. So I got a quick question though. Before we transition off of this, like if Brewin Black had a hot 10, who would you want to see on that list?
Man. All right. So I gotta start off by giving credit just where it's due in terms of success and influencing the culture. So we got to start off with the Beyoncés, the Rihannas, the Simone Biles, the Serenas. Like we got to get oh man, there's so many people. I'm gonna put Angela Rye on there. I'm gonna put Amanda Seales. I'm gonna get some of my crushes in there. So shout out to Demetria Abalor, even for some of her viral moments. My girl Scotty, also known as Deani, we love you. Those are just a few quick people. Look, I got a wall of it. Oh, I'm gonna put Kimberly Crenshaw on there because y'all been using intersectionality way too much. I'm gonna put Melissa Harris Perry on there. I'm gonna put Jamel Hill for what she's done for the sports media. Like, so there's so many. But you see how easy that was, Maxim?
Yeah. Hey, yeah, somebody send him this clip. That's on my mama.
Honestly. What about you, T?
I really love your list, bro. And you had a plenty of that I would have. So off the top of the dome, I would also add Megan Thee Stallion.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Had to. Gabrielle Union, because she got the heart right there. Alicia Keys, I used to love me some Alicia Keys. Alicia Keys is the one. You already named Beyonce, but we got to throw Solange on there. Like,
of course.
You sleep on Solange. So yeah, those is definitely mine.
Can I also add? I gotta add. Baby, I'm so sorry, Vivica Fox, because just her impact in movies, people forget y'all. And honestly, this is cheating just a little bit, but I think Janet Hubert deserved it. If Maxim went back like in the 90s and 80s, Janet Hubert, like she doesn't get. She's just now starting to get her fame back in that particular way. That light's starting to be shown on her again. But like she was just a superstar for that time period. She was on the Fresh Prince. So like if there was a Maxim back then, she needed to be on there. Freaking Tina Campbell, Tashina Arnold. I gotta shout out Cree Summers, who's voiced like almost every black animation character in existence. Freaking Felicia Rashad, like the list goes. And these are just Janelle. I would put her like there's man.
What's I used to love her. Dang, I can't think of her. She used to date Janelle Monáe. What's her name?
Oh yeah, Tessa Thompson. Come on, man. This is too easy.
Yeah, Maxim, hire us, please.
Come on, man. We gonna make it go up. It'll get up and stuck. Also, we gotta give it to Nicki. Obviously, we gotta give it to Nicki Minaj. You know what I'm saying? And if I put Nicki in there, I'm gonna put Lil Kim in there because of what.
Yeah, dog. How did neither one of them end up on somebody's top 10? Like, come on,
man.
Lil Kim.
Oh, I'm gonna put Queen on there. Like I gotta put Jada Pinkett. Like,
Oh yeah.
we could do a whole show, but that's what we need to do. We need to stop playing around. But that's what we need to do is just have a show where we just talk about all the great Black women. And this is just mostly in entertainment, but like there's
Yeah.
so.
Oh yeah, let me throw two sports people in there. I gotta throw in my girl Liz Cambage. Shout out to the
Yes.
Aces. She's 6'8", and we would climb that tree.
Oh my God.
And
Oh my goodness.
Skylar Diggins is the one. And let me throw in Dee Richards. She a rookie. Fine. She came from Baylor.
Yes. There's just so many
Love our athletes.
Absolutely.
You already named Simone. We had to throw Simone on there.
Oh man, she dominated for fun, and she got time to do other Black girls' hair.
Yeah, I wish we could do the spotlight again because I think she just won her 7th U.S. championship. She just breaking records. I think they called it the Simone.
Yeah. Just really name. It's not a medal anymore. It is just a Simone. That's the thing. That's the thing. So yeah, Maxim, get it together, man. I just it's a travesty what they doing. But I mean, like we said, we love Teyana Taylor. Maxim, y'all got to do better. Y'all got to do better, please. I beg of you. We beg of you. I think another another organization that Maxim can learn from, because other organizations have made mistakes even more severe than Maxim's probably, but some people have made mistakes and they are just now starting to try to rectify that. And for those of you who don't know, the NFL recently announced that they are getting rid of racial norming. T, will you explain to the people who might not know what that is? What is racial norming?
Absolutely. So racial norming is the assumption that Black players have lower cognitive functioning than white ones. So that means that they believe that Black people do not have the same brain functionings as white people. This sounds pretty familiar, right? And this was in 2021 where they started to get rid of this, right? So this assumption also made it harder for them to prove that they had a deficient brain, like trauma that really happened to their brain. And that also made it harder for them to qualify for the payouts that the NFL is giving now that they know that CTE is a thing. So what we know about the NFL is that for a long time, they hid the fact that there was brain trauma going on. And so even on top of this, it's like they know there's brain trauma. And now we know that this is just another way for the NFL to continue to exploit their Black players. So just a little history on race norming. So race norming was actually introduced as an anti-racist measure. So it came out as a part of affirmative action. And it was really looking to establish equity. So when we think about equity, we think about like the GRE, the SAT, the SBAC, some of these tests that Black people often aren't prepared for because of the inadequate school segregation, right? We know that segregation may be not a thing. Is it de jure? So by law, so by law, you can't have segregation, but we understand that through redlining and different things like that, Black neighborhoods have Black schools, Latino neighborhoods have Latino schools. We have these minoritized schools where these schools are getting less funding and they're very marginalized. So these students aren't being prepared the same way. So these affirmative action programs were looking to establish equity and say like, okay, we understand that there's racial bias. So let's kind of look at this as a sliding scale. So like, okay, if you got a 120 and this white student got a 125, we equate this 120 as really like a 133 if you were able to have the proper resources. So it was like a sliding scale. But what the NFL did was took that and pimped it. And it was really a form of medical racism that it's not only the NFL, hospitals use it too, but they used it to say that like, okay, that shows you that Black people have less brain, like cognitive functioning than these white players. And they use that to keep them away from getting the money that they needed in these settlements and these suits. But also think about the NFL. This is the same organization that didn't really allow a lot of Black quarterbacks. Black quarterbacks just kind of became a thing over the last about 20, 30 years. Right. There was always maybe like a 1 or 2, and they were always held as like these physical specimens, right? Like these super athletic, but they never saw Black men as able to lead a team. I did actually a research project. This was my first research paper when I got to college. I was at Boise State, and I really wanted to look at how Black players are talked about in comparison to white players. Often white players are held for their intelligence, their leadership, their intangibles, the way that they can command a team. But Black players are often looked at as purely physical. Like the comments that are positive is also, or often like that they're extremely fast, they're extremely strong. In their critique, especially when we hear about Black quarterbacks. I think about Justin Fields, who just came from Ohio State, one of the top quarterbacks, but he is passed by this guy from BYU that had a good season too. But the thing that they say about Justin Fields is like, oh, we don't know how well he can read a defense. Oh, he struggles to make decision making. Where? I mean, don't get me wrong. I grew up an Ohio State fan, so I've been watching all this man's games. Like these past few years, he's dominated the field. But they take these things that are coded. It's coded racism. And so I just wanted to kind of show y'all that there's a history. I mean, the race norming, it applies to people all over. Like it's used on Black students today. And I think that like race norming is just the word that like that we can use to understand it in the NFL, but it's still a common problem that affects us all.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. And I love, first of all, thank you for breaking it down for those who didn't understand it. I'm learning, I was learning as well. And it goes back to this idea of intentionality, right? Like this, like they weren't, this thing isn't like, oh man, this is excluding the Black players. We didn't realize, sorry. And a matter of fact, it reminds me of a science known as phrenology, which was the study of skulls, and it was a pseudoscience, and they used it to say, that the Black mind or the Negro mind was actually not as competent, not as big, not as effective as white ones. And so it reminds me of that. So like, if we can convince you that your mind is smaller, that your brain is smaller, that it doesn't function on the same level as the white players, we can basically say, hey, look, you Black men cannot run plays. You know what I'm saying? You can't dissect plays. You can't. And I think that can also impact how you look at coaches, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, right?
And the lack of them.
Right. Absolutely. Right. And so when we think about, like you said, the cerebral, like even if you look at how, Black players are described, whether it be in basketball, the NFL, it's like, he's a monster, he's a beast. And sometimes the white folks, it's like, oh, he's so cerebral, he's so calculated, he's so right. Absolutely. And so I think that we have to sort of keep those things in mind. And like you said, it's like, they're doing this, it's happening, the racism is happening. And I want people to remember this is all intentional. It was all on purpose. And so it goes back to, hey, someone's writing about this, we're talking about this, and hopefully the organization starts to change its policies and practices like it's saying it's doing. And then this will inform us, because then we're going to start seeing, oh, hey, these Black people actually have a mind that they can use to help us win football games. Who knew? Oh, we did, but hey, racism is, hey, look, I know I'm awesome, and for some reason I have to prove to you that I've been awesome for centuries, even though you didn't want to accept it. So salute to you for finally giving me the chance that you should have given me hundreds of years ago.
From the
jump.
And it's like, and I think about Black students today, right? It's like, informally we understand, or we think, not we as in us, because it's like, who's we? But like informally we think about like, okay, because Black students have bad situations, then teachers have lower expectations for students. So then it's like they're not challenging students as much as they might be challenging other students. So then they score lower. And it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think that, just like you said, it's like phrenology. It's like it is tied back to these historical, like these roots. And it's like when people are always like, why you always bringing up slavery? It's like, nigga, this is why. This is really why, because it still has roots, and it might not look exactly the same, but at the heart, it's the same thing. And I told y'all last week that I'm reading this book called Caste, and it's by Isabel Wilkerson. And that is it was a tenet of or a pillar of the caste system, that to make someone out as inferior, intellectually, physically, like beauty wise, right? Because if you can convince enough people that they are inferior in whatever way, then you're able to treat them worse. And then when you're able to treat them worse, then the conditions are worse, and then they perform worse. And then again, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's like it's been happening to Black people since they've institutionalized slavery. They had to make an excuse for it. So it's like, well, why? Oh, because the niggas are dumb. They don't know how to do anything. You beat them and you tell them not to do this, and then it's like, okay, then they don't do it. And then it's like, oh yeah, see, he don't know how to do it. So it's like, it again, it's just like you said, it's very calculated. It is all a part of the plan. And it's not just, it didn't just happen to Black people too. And I think that that's the important thing that I'm pulling away from this book, is that there's a system that like has been adopted by all of these different countries. And even listening to Rob talk a few weeks ago about Palestine, right? I'm sure that they have because of that apartheid system, they have these same ideas. And it's like, if you fund something less, then of course it's going to perform less. And then you can look at it and be like, hey, look, they're performing worse. Why would we give them more money? So again, it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think that it's crazy, but I think that like spreading awareness is the first place where we can really like interject and start to like kind of make a change. But it also is demoralizing in a way, bro. Like knowing how racist like that historically it's been, right? And it's knowing that in 2021, we just got the first Black woman to be named the sexiest person. And then we also just got this, what was it, phrenology type system just pulled out of the biggest sports industry in the world. Maybe not in the world, like, because it's soccer, but let's say like in the United States for sure. Like it generates the most revenue by far. So, and we just got rid of that. Like, how much do we not know about right now? How many more firsts are to come?
Absolutely. But you know what I will say too is that one of the biggest things I think, and I've heard this, when I had my students, one of the greatest things about, being able to learn about racism is when some BS happens in life, you're not looking at yourself and being like, dang, what did I do wrong? What did I, the system is against you. So as depressing as it is, there's a piece with knowing, with taking that red pill and being like, oh no, like y'all just really messed up. I'm actually pretty excellent. And guess what? I'm a grind. I'm gonna work my way through the system, but I'm gonna have the knowledge that I'm going against something that wants to keep me down. And on top of that, there has to be a reason that you're trying to keep me down. It's the biggest white supremacy is the biggest insecurity that America has ever seen. It's the biggest insecurity that America has ever seen. Because when you know you're great, you know that there's room at the top for other people to be great. And white supremacy has been trying to tell Blacks as well as other people, hey, no, you're not great. Look at this score. Look at incarceration rates. Look at this, that, and the third. And it's just like, no, when you have a podcast, when you have television shows, when you have scholars and books and articles that tell you, oh, no. They set that up as a trap so that they could try to make you feel inferior. And it's like, oh, you know what? That actually makes sense now that I think about it, because they just told me that those kids acted up. They didn't tell me that their schools were inadequate, that their teachers were first-time teachers who didn't care, who were going to transition.
They didn't have enough to eat.
Right. Some people are literally walking out their houses not knowing if they're going to get killed, and then they're expected to go do algebra. Like, we're not having these types of conversations, and so I think that this is why what you said is so important, because now when someone hears that, when they, more importantly, when they see that, whether they be white, black or what have you, they're like, oh, no, this is that racism stuff. It's coded. Oh, this is that de jure. Oh, this is that de facto. Oh, I get it now. So like it's very discouraging, and at the same time I just look at it like, dang, we must really be the shit if y'all can't handle, if y'all got to go through this. Y'all, do you know how much white supremacy entails? People don't understand that. It's just,
y'all been gaslighting us for 400 years. Like,
come on, at least that. At least
like, the jig is almost up.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I don't know, man. It's wild, but we appreciate that so much for you breaking that down, because I didn't know about the history of the racial norm in the NFL. But the more you talk about it, the more I'm like, oh yeah, because that's always been a big thing about like Black people not having, certain, not even with the players and the players being treated wrong, but like Black people not having more executive positions, more head coaching positions. And that's not even in just the NFL. Stephen A. Smith just went off the other day about there not being enough Black executives and head coaches in these NBA positions. Right. And so, but that cerebral stuff, it comes up. So, that is what it is. And so we're talking about, these white institutions accepting more Black people in their white spaces and being intentional about trying to exclude us. But sometimes the world likes to try to flip that conversation, right? Sometimes we think about white people in predominantly Black spaces, right? And we think about whether or not that is good for us. And so there's been a lot of clamoring, and T, I'll let you give the people more details about this, but there have been a lot of conversations about white folks being in HBCUs, white folks joining, predominantly Black Greek letter organizations. And, there are conversations about, is that safe? Especially because, for those of you who might not understand, especially with Black Greek letter organizations, they were founded because Black people weren't allowed in white spaces, and white spaces were actually dangerous, right, for Black people. Same thing with HBCUs. They're Black people couldn't go. And then furthermore, and this is an issue that people deal with in PWIs today, even if you do get to send your Black child to a predominantly white institution, you can't trust that all the white folks who were there to teach your kid actually believe that your kid can do anything. Once again, that cerebral stuff is coming back up, right? So T, break it down a little bit more for the people about what this debate has been.
Yeah, so there was a viral video kind of going around, this girl talking just like you were saying, kind of talking about the history of HBCUs and the history of these Divine Nine organizations. I don't believe she was actually a part of Divine Nine. She might have been a part of an HBCU, but talking about how she just finds it very off-putting that white people are able to kind of be a part of these organizations or these institutions and kind of flaunt that. And it really brings up the question I want to hear from you, and I would love to hear from the Brewers if we could put this out. When is gatekeeping okay? And is it necessary? When is it necessary? And is it necessary in this case? And for me, when it comes to white people at HBCUs, I think a lot of people talk about how they're taking up spots that otherwise would be for Black people, whether that be for Divine Nine organizations and for HBCUs. And I believe that they may be right, but I think for me personally, these are the wrong white people to have smoke for. I think that, like we talked about this a few episodes ago, it's just like picking and choosing your battles. And I think that this is one that I truly really wouldn't fight. When I think about white people at HBCUs, it takes, I believe, a special white person to have to go to a place where they will be the ones that's marginalized. And I believe through that experience, especially if they last those 4 years and they are occupying these spaces and they are, if they join some of these organizations, I think that they will have experiences where they do feel marginalized, where they can build a little empathy and understand what the plight might be for other people, like, or specifically Black people, predominantly white institutions, or Black people just in the United States in general. So I do think that there is a benefit. And I think that if we do have smoke for white people and want to gatekeep them out, then what is the real solution for overcoming this caste system? Because I think if we allow white people in these spaces, then they are more privy to some of these conversations that we have, just like this. Like Brewin Black is one of those conversations where we want to expose people to the truth. I think that these are these conversations that happen at the dinner table. These are the conversations that happen in the barbershop. These are the conversations that happen on our campuses. And I think that if white people are in these spaces, then they have no choice other than to sit there and listen. Like, imagine if somebody's listening to Brewin Black at Howard, right? And there's a white man that go to Howard and he's studying in the same space. He's hearing these same things. Or if people are talking about this at the bowling alley, you were forced to start to have Black friends and really to understand their plight and their experience. And I think that some people look at like, okay, well, white people that go to HBCUs get like scholarships and different things like that. That's money that could be going to us. And yeah, I think that institutionally we have to think about like some real solutions. But I think, yeah, I think if like these are the white people we're upset with, and we want like this white woman that joined the Deltas and at a HBCU, would it be better if she was a white woman that went to Georgia and joined one of the white sororities? Like, no, I think she would be a worse off person, especially long term when we're thinking about like advocating for our rights and moving forward. Because I think as a Black person that has fought the fight and struggled the struggle, like I know internally, inherently that this isn't a fight that we can win by ourselves. So how do we build more allies? And I think that that's a way. What do you
No,
think? Especially
no,
as somebody that's in a divine organization.
yeah. Blue Fire, shout out to my siblings out there. But I think, and I think this is a very, very fun conversation for me because I know, shout out to Akai. We have a plethora of brothers in that organization throughout the years who have not been Black. I'm talking my line brother. Shout out to you, Jason. Panamanian 6'2" white looking man. Okay. We have a Chinese man. Shout out to my man Jasper. Shout out to a white football player we got in there, Noah. You know what I'm saying? Who, and well, I'm not gonna put his business out there, but he's defended our organization and fought hard for us. So
Okay.
it's one of those things that when you come into a Black organization and when you say you want to be a part of, especially Black Greek letter organizations, I've seen white people think they want to be a part of it, and then they see all the things that they have to do in terms of classes and coursework and stuff like that, and they're just like, no. I think Black Greek letter organizations are good at weeding out non-Black people who don't have the best intentions. Of course, no organization is going to get that perfect all the time, but I think that I remember when the Trayvon Martin, sit-ins and die-ins were happening, Eric Gardner, Mike Brown, and you saw my Panamanian brother beside me. You saw my Chinese brother beside me, and I've seen white Sigmas at HBCUs who are also like, no, I'm standing with my brothers. And so I think there's something powerful in the people, the non-Black people who want to join these organizations who have good intentions, because these people are the same people who were packing meals with us during MLK's service days. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you one of those white people who's going to just be throwing around the N-word and just want to be, and you have this idea of what Black people are, like it's going to show. Yeah. It's going to show. Yeah. With absolutely. Black Greek letter organizations, like, you bear your whole soul to these organizations, and
some that people don't even make it through.
Right. And some Black people are worse, and some people who happen, because I want to be clear, some people who happen to be Black are worse for the organization than that white person who had to prove themselves so much, and who will still always get questioned because of their whiteness or because of their non-Blackness. And so I've had more positive than negative experiences with that, but I'm not saying that I don't get the gatekeeping thing, but it goes back to what you're saying, T. It's like, what is the alternative? Like, the best thing for America might be if 20% of the richest white kids from the richest white families in America were forced to go to HBCUs and have to like see, because it's different when you're white and you're with your black homies and some cops get called and like you feel safe and you see them get harassed. That might change your life forever. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And you so, right. And so I think that, because when you were talking about white people, it's like, even if they are marginalized at these HBCUs, or even if they feel like the odd person out, they still hold that power. They still get to be white and enjoy whiteness, even in an all black space.
Absolutely.
Even in an all black space. And so my thing is,
put on the pedestal.
Right. But what they get to see is they get to see a look inside of the disenfranchisement that Black people go through, because even at a HBCU, you either going to learn about racism or you're going to experience it. And not because of what's going on at a HBCU. It's because the world is still racist.
Yeah.
Regardless, you could be at the best HBCU in the world, but you still going to experience racism based on your blackness, even if it happens outside of the HBCU walls. And I think it's important for white people to see that, because when is the average white person going to see that? When is the average white person going to have that type of conversation? And so
that exposure.
Right. And let's be clear, right? We're not, if a white person gets a scholarship and there are not enough for the black students at HBCUs, maybe there's an issue with HBCUs and funding overall. And maybe we also need to be pushing society and our government, which you so eloquently mentioned earlier. Maybe HBCUs should just be getting more funding in general, so that it doesn't have to be an issue, so that people who need scholarships, whether they be black or white, get them, period. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that there is space for white folks there. And I think, what I love about HBCUs, and I don't come from an HBCU, but I have a lot of respect for predominantly black spaces, because it's hard to fake it in a predominantly black space.
Absolutely.
It's so hard. We read you so much because we're so used to all the coded BS.
Yeah.
We're so used to it. We know when stuff is crazy. We know when stuff is out of whack. And it's very hard for a white person to come in and really trick you. Yeah. It really is. I would have an easier time going to HBCU and trying to trick people, because I right.
It's like right. you could be, it's similar to how white people have, like, right? Like they can just mask, they can just kind of fit in. But yeah, like I've had a similar experience just being a part of a BSO, like, which is like just a black student organization. And it's like, there was a few white people and they really cared. And it's like, they had to really care. And people did kind of discriminate against them. They didn't really like having them in the space. And it's like, in that, they have to understand that, like, yeah, it really don't have nothing to do with you. Yeah, people don't really care for you based on how you look. And you still have to commit to the work. And that's what I would respect, like, them for. Because it's like, yeah, like, you know that, like, it's unfair. But it's like, because you've committed to this work, you know how unfair it is overall. And you won't even, like, you may take it personally a little bit, but it's like, it's knowing that it's not really personal. And that, like, if this is just a smidge that you got to get, like, then that's worth it.
Right. Absolutely. And I love it. I actually love it, because I think that they need to, this might be the only time in their life where they actually feel scrutinized in that way, like made to feel uncomfortable because of their racial background. And it's just like, yeah, you'll get to see it. And guess what? Guess what? Because, you know, I'm not going to say it. No, I am, Bumpet. I've seen a lot of colorblind couples in my life. I thank God my family, because my stepbrothers and sisters, like, they actually have conscious partners. So thank God. But I've seen people in colorblind relationships. And so even if that white person marries a black person that they met at the HBCU, it's going to be different, because you're going to get you will have seen how your partner was treated as a black person. And the way you interact with your kids is going to be just a little bit different. I like the idea of white people having to be uncomfortable in a space, because they might not ever get it if they go to your Harvards and your Yales and your Columbias and whatnot. Not that those aren't great institutions, but you can easily find yourself in an all white space forever and never have to dip your toe into the ebony pool. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's good. I wish more white people actually had that experience. Now, as it relates to, you know, you taking up spots and spaces, well, I'm going to question why HBCUs or Black Greek letter organizations aren't getting the funding and the support from society at large.
Yeah, that's such a bar, because it's like, why are we fighting over crumbs? That's essentially a lot of the problems that we have, right? Is that, like, it really shouldn't matter, because there should be enough to go around. So it's like, but because we're forced into, like, this minimalist type thing, is like we have to fight each other for, like, a little scrap. So then it's like, ultimately this white person does catch a stray because of this. But it's like, it is much bigger than this, like, personal, like this micro level. It's much more macro. It's much more at least meso level.
Absolutely. And what I will say is that Black Greek letter organizations, yes, they were made for the protection and the safety of Black people, but they are also made for the upliftment of Black people. And guess what, y'all? The safety and the upliftment of and the progress of Black people is the safety and the upliftment and the progress of human beings, which is what every human being should be invested in.
Absolutely.
So yes, white person, look, if you in my organization and the stuff that you are doing is uplifting and pushing Black people forward, then hey, then that's your work too.
Yeah.
Like some women organizations, like if an organization is just for women, no, I might not join that particular organization. But guess what? Making sure that women are cool and safe and healthy and progressing in life, that's not just women's work.
Yeah.
That's men's work too.
Absolutely.
White people, it's especially white people's work, given what they've done to Black people collectively. So you damn near owe us this work. You damn near owe us this work.
Everybody should be volunteering.
That's what I'm saying. I saw a statistic the other day that slaves, our enslaved ancestors put in about $14.2 trillion worth of labor into this country. Oh, we are owed. So it might, so I get it. I get it's about protection and things of that nature. But guess what? Black people don't have a problem protecting each other from a collective standpoint. Yeah. We're worried about what white people are doing. So white people might need to be at some of these HBCUs so they can learn what protecting Black people might look like. Because Harvard might not teach you that.
And that's all I'm saying, bro. And that's all I'm saying. And when it comes down to it, like, if white people or just non-Black people have to be lightly hazed, right? Like I'm not in a Greek organization, so I don't know exactly the process.
Phi Beta Sigmas are not hazing fraternity, so I don't know about none of that either. But yeah, let's keep talking about it.
Like
hazing is crazy.
From my understanding of these processes, there are things that you have to do, and one is learning the history. And with learning the history of that organization, you learn about the marginalization of Black people. And there are often chores and different physical and strenuous activities that you have to do. And if white people and non-Black people of color have to go through that to become part of this organization, I can't see too much wrong with that. Like, I think every white person probably should have to do that. Should probably be K through 12, right? Like,
look, because what people don't realize is that sometimes, yes, Kathy might have joined that organization, but she was about to be a Karen. She was about to be a Karen,
bro. That's all I'm saying.
And look, Black people, I know it's not our job to save these white people. I get it, but guess what? We're going to be impacted by white people regardless. Absolutely. And so if that white person is there and they feel like they can contribute to your organization, and you might be able to play a crucial part, because guess what? If that person gets older and they're shunned and they remember they're shunned and then they somehow become a Betsy DeVos.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, bro. When they could have just been Angelina Jolie.
They could have been they could have been a Jane Elliott. They could have been a Jane Elliott, but
ended up a Betsy DeVos.
Right. They could have been questioning other white people for you. Matter of fact, because what we don't realize is that HBCUs are so thorough. Shout out to my sis Audrey. Because when you go to a HBCU, you can tell that they come out some thorough scholars. Mm-hmm. And so when I think about my HBCU folks, y'all could be producing a critical mass of Jane Elliott's that the world needs, because these corporations aren't doing it. I'm gonna tell you that now. A lot of these nonprofits are not doing it. I'm telling you that right now. Create more Jane Elliott's. Create more white people, so that more critical white people, so that they can go challenge other white people for you. You know what I'm saying? You could be creating this. Honestly, sometimes letting these white people in could damn near be like a retirement plan for Black people, so we don't have to put in as much labor.
And it's like, when I know Black people love saying, or like on Twitter, they love saying like, it is not Black people's job to save the world, but like, it is in our best interest. And if we can put other people to that work, like in the short term, then long term, like we will reap those benefits. And I think that, yes, producing more Jane Elliott's will do that. And how can we do that? And I think that it's not the end all be all, but I think that it is a way in which we could. That's all I want to say.
Yeah. And we're not out here saying go find 20,000 white people and bring them all to HBCUs. We're saying for these white people who happen to be at your HBCUs, hey, if they want to come to the camp and see how it is, as long as they're not calling the cops, And maybe because maybe when Tommy is at the cookout with all y'all and Karen does call the cops and he sees how y'all get harassed, he'll be like, dang, like they were just having fun. They weren't bothering nobody.
You might need somebody to go talk to the cops, like, hey, brother, like that's not cool. They were just chilling. You need somebody to talk that language. Like,
yeah, so I just
get you a Steve on your side.
Yeah, like I just feel like, isn't that what we want? Don't we want white people to activate their privilege and use it on our behalves? Don't we want white people to do that labor? And it starts from somewhere, because they're not gonna get it. You think you think Tommy, who grew up in the suburbs, his parents are having conversations about Black people and race? No.
Very rarely.
No. So yeah, that's all we got to say about that. You don't have to go out looking for them and kidnapping white people and bringing them to your Black organizations or HBCUs. We're not saying that.
Brewin Black don't approve.
Right, but if someone, and trust your own intuition, if you feel like, yo, they genuinely could learn, they genuinely want to learn, they genuinely have good intentions, like we're saying, consider allowing them to be at the cookout, consider allowing them to learn more about your organization and see how it goes. And then if it blows up, here's what I'm gonna do. Here's what I'm gonna do right now, T. If it blows up, I'm inviting all of our listeners, right? And then listeners, even if y'all know someone, if y'all have stories about y'all let white people into y'all's cookouts, into y'all Black Greek letter organizations, y'all send them in. I'm inviting you right now. Send them in to us, and we'll have that discussion, because we want to have that discussion with y'all. But like, consider it just a tad bit, They don't have to be the face of your organization or nothing, but just consider it. Just consider it. So that's all with that. Shout out to all the white folks who have learned more about Black culture, who have actually been allies for Black people because of their BGLO experience or their HBCU experience. Shout out to all the BGLOs and HBCUs who have taken people of all different types of races and made them better for Black upliftment and empowerment. We appreciate you. That labor is permanent, and we know that y'all taking that on your shoulders, and we appreciate y'all so much for that. And so, yeah, with that said, man, we gotta go into it, and because it's sort of like I was saying before, when we think about people as racially different humans, because we're not colorblind over here, but when we think about someone who's of a different race happening to be a human and being deserving of human dignity, the world is a better place. And so we got to give it up to people who've done that. And that is actually going to take us into our spotlight segment. And for those of you who don't know, our spotlight is when we show love to somebody or something who's doing something great in the community. And we start off with our light roast, but we try to end it with love over on this side of the podcast world. And so we got to give a special shout out to the jazz player Jordan Clarkson. The Yum Yum food truck was vandalized with anti-Asian graffiti, and Jordan Clarkson actually helped get the stop the vandalization or get the food truck reworked and redone. And so we gotta say a huge shout out to you, Jordan Clarkson, because to my knowledge, he's not Asian American, but he knew that, this Yum Yum food truck, not only the sentiments that were expressed on there were foul, but like these human beings were violated as well. And he saw it and felt it within his heart to try to rectify that situation to the best of his abilities. And so we got to give a special shout out to him.
Absolutely. Yeah, I believe Jordan Clarkson is Filipino Black American.
Indeed.
Okay. I think it is dope, but still, it's like that is where solidarity starts, right? Like,
right.
And I believe the Yum Yum food truck is something that is often outside of like the jazz arena. So it's like it's servicing fans. So not only is he showing his commitment to the fans, but his commitment to like other cultures and like a culture that he has a part of too, right? And it's like, as a Black man, we probably don't look at him and see a Filipino man, but it's like that is part of his heritage. And I think that in those ways are the ways that we can bridge these gaps and these divides. And I just think that that's dope.
No, absolutely. And I actually think it's even more impressive for him to do that, because when I look at him, I don't think Filipino, I don't even think Asian American. And so for him, he could have been like, I pass as Black, and it is what it is. But shout out to people, because this is an issue, and this can be for another show. But some of y'all are out there, y'all are biracial, and y'all don't act like y'all have multiple cultures in you. Well, and we'll get to that another time, because that is a pet peeve of mine, because usually you know you it's the minoritized identity that you don't claim, and usually it's the black one that you don't claim. But it is what it is. But much love to Jordan Clarkson, much love to the Young Food Truck. We hope, we wish you the best of sales, and to those weirdos who did that, get it together. Like, come on, what are you doing? What are you doing? There's no need to spread that type of hate around. So yeah, man, that's all I got to say about that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
how you feeling, man?
Bro. It was a great show. I think
was good.
I think every show was great. Don't get me wrong. I hope our brewers like it too. But I think I just continue to hear us getting better and more refined. And it's like we always had the information, but I feel like we're a little bit more concise. We're able to deliver it a little bit better. I think it's just our comfortability. It's like how we bounce off of each other. It's the topics that we pick and the research that we do. I think that I want y'all to know that we put time and effort into this, and I think that we are really learning how to really execute this at a high level, and I'm just super excited to see where we go with this.
Absolutely. And look, y'all, I gotta make an apology. I was just having a conversation with T about this earlier. I know some of y'all have been asking for the content and asking our thoughts on certain things. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna get it out to y'all. So I'm gonna be getting out more and more of these clips. Honestly, a lot of y'all will be seeing part of these the visual part of these clips, maybe before even the audio drops, just so we can build some enthusiasm, because we're talking about some great stuff. And even more importantly, this is about impacting the culture. We want to hear from y'all. We want to know y'all's thoughts. And anyone that this can bless, we want to get it out there too. And so we're going to be dropping more clips. T said some great things. I said some things that I was proud of today. And so we going to get that out to y'all. I promise. I promise that on everything. We coming in with a new fervor and some new strategy. And so we excited to get this heat out to y'all.
Okay. So as we close out, like we like to do, gotta say the same, keep the coffee black. We like our podcast like we like our women black. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for listening. We appreciate it, and we will see y'all soon. Peace.